back, YouTube. Tristan Blaze, and I've been seeing this pop up every once in a while, especially prior to the election, on like my Twitter feed or like on Facebook, and it's like, oh, it's a political compass test, and seen a few YouTubers do it, and I kind of wanted to do it myself. So here we see roughly, in terms of the way this political compass test goes, the breakdown of the four main candidates for the U.S. presidential election. We see both Clinton and Trump in the upper right, authoritarian right corner. We see Gary Johnson down in the lower right, libertarian style corner, and Jill Stein on the lower left, libertarian left corner. And down here is earlier primaries, where you see Sanders is basically riding the line on the left. He's not bottom left or bottom right, not authoritarian, not libertarian, but still left leaning. Clinton and Trump are kind of in the same positions, and then you got Cruz, Bush, Rubio, just kind of lumped in near Trump as well. I've seen the videos of other YouTubers. I know this test was made in the UK, and there's going to be certain questions that you could kind of say are less applicable potentially in America than they would be in the UK, but also there's other questions that aren't really asked on the test. I really don't remember seeing any about gun rights or gun ownership, gun control, things like that. And I'm going to assume that how the test is made, I'm probably going to come out around here as sort of like a left-leaning libertarian, but if we had some questions about stuff like gun control, that might have pushed me a bit more to the right. Now, I voted for Gary Johnson myself. I voted libertarian. Why I didn't vote Green Party, I made a whole video about that where I talked about the libertarian VP and how he believed that due to the current political and economic structure of America, the African-American people could not survive and thrive, and it needed to be destroyed. Well, the not the African-American people, the current economic and political system of America, which I'm not really in favor for. I'm not in favor for destroying the government and economic system that I currently live under. So that's why I didn't vote for him. So let's take the test. Just a few propositions to start with concerning, no less, how you see the country and the world. Okay. If economic globalization is inevitable, it should primarily serve humanity rather than the interests of transnational corporations. If the interests of the transnational corporations are to serve humanity, I don't see the problem with serving the interests of the corporations, but very few corporations would actually have that as a mission statement. Primarily serving humanity, don't have a problem with that. However, if it gets to a point where the corporation could falter economically, I do see a little bit of a problem. I'll agree, but not strongly. I always support my country, whether it was right or wrong. It's just a tough one. I love my country and I want to support it, but at the same time, I do call it out when it's wrong. I remember when I was in the Marines and we were getting ready to invade Iraq. I wasn't in the Middle East at the time, but we were getting ready to invade Iraq and people were talking about it. And I go, dude, this is like a stupid idea, man. We shouldn't be doing this crap. So I called it out while I was in uniform, and it's stupid. But If given the order to go, I would have followed it because that's what I signed up for. I had a contractual obligation to follow orders. I agree, but to a point, I would agree. No one chooses his or her country of birth, so it is foolish to be proud of it. No, I strongly disagree with that. You know, if see, I was raised in this country, in this culture. I like it. It's for all its failings, it's still benefited me to live here. By sitting here saying that nobody chooses his or her country of birth, so it's foolish to be proud of it. Well, fuck, man, I could have been born in the goddamn Congo, where people use rape as a weapon of war. I wouldn't want to be proud of that. I'd try to fucking flee, go somewhere else. All right, this is a good one. Our race has many superior qualities compared with other races. Now, if we're talking about color, I got a problem with that. If we're talking about the human race in general, what other races are we comparing it to? I strongly disagree. I don't really think any race has superior qualities. I mean, you could look at it like in terms of genetic, but that even then, it's kind of a crapshoot here or there because you're always going to find genetically this group is prone to this and this group is not. And then you can flip it on the other side and see how one group genetically is more benefited than another group. So, I mean, I disagree. I think it's stupid. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. It depends on how friendly they are. I don't know. I mean, Assad doesn't really like ISIS, but I'm not really down with Assad in Syria. I'm not. Don't get me wrong. I mean, he's against ISIS, and I'm against ISIS, which is good. But again, he kind of murders his own people, so I'm not really not really big on it. I gotta disagree. I mean, I can't strongly disagree because I do have to be pragmatic about certain things. Like, yes, I hate communism. I hate communism. I hate Marxism. But in World War II, you made a choice: either either fight with the Soviets against Nazi Germany, or just not fight Nazi Germany. Well, Nazi Germany was possibly a bigger threat technically. I mean, the Soviets really didn't give a shit about a lot of other stuff, provided you would stick with the dogmatic Soviet ideology. Like the Nazis had this like insane racial hierarchy, and yes, I know the Soviets were rather discriminatory towards certain ethnic minorities in their own country, Jewish individuals, Central Asian Soviet citizens, and they normally wouldn't get preferred positions in stuff like the Soviet Air Force. Yes, I understand that, but they weren't, you know, you know, gassing them and doing a Holocaust and shit. At least post World War II. We're not going to count the Holodomor of the Ukraine yet. We're not going to go that far yet. Military action that defies international law is sometimes justified. It depends on how. It depends on the. It depends on what you're doing. It does. It depends. For example, let's say Kim Jong Un of North Korea is vacationing at a lush palatial fucking palace on the Korean coast, and he has made it very publicly clear that when I get back to Pyongyang, I am going to nuke the living shit out of, Japan. If that's if it's legit serious, define international law to take that person out. I would have to say that would be justified because you have a potential 100 million casualties in Japan because of it. So I would agree, but not strongly. It depends on what the goal is. It depends on what the threat is, and many variables. There is now a worrying fusion of information and entertainment. Yes, I agree. Just just look at the just look at the newscasters and the fucking election cycle, man. Of course there is. Now the economy. We're talking attitudes, not the FTSE index. Okay. People are ultimately divided more by class than by nationality. Um, Nationality, as in across different borders, or like nationality, as in like I'm an American and I'm Polish, Italian, and like Irish, German, French, Canadian, potentially some Algonquin native mixed in with the French Canadian. I don't know. Versus me, meeting like a Scotsman and a Scots Frenchman in my country. I mean, if that's the nationality, then no. But if it's between different borders, I believe people are more divided by class because you do get that. Well, I don't strongly agree because there are some upper class people that still tend to be a bit more nationalistic. I agree. Especially with some of the tweets I've seen from Francesca Ramsey when it came on the when people were trying to boycott Hamilton. First of all, the show was sold out for fucking months beyond when people said boycott it, and then second, she came out and said, "Y'all are trying to boycott Hamilton when you can't even afford tickets." So there is a big division of class in this country. Um, I agree, not strongly. Controlling inflation is more important than controlling unemployment. Uh, you see, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't there. You have full employment, which is great, but if your inflation is sky high, man, you're going to fuck yourself, man. I mean, people were, like, what was it? Zimbabwe has printed like $1 trillion bills before due to just massive inflation. So even if they had full employment, I mean, what are you going to buy? I mean, look at Weimar Germany, post World War One, pre World War Two, before the Nazis took over, with like the massive amounts of inflation, where literally there was a story where a German had a basket full of Weimar German Reichsmarks, or were they Rentenmarks? I think they were Rentenmarks. God, I'm a little off on the currency of Germany during that time frame. I think it might have been Rentenmarks. And he went to go do something, and he came back, and all the marks were still there, but someone had stole the basket because the basket was more valuable. I disagree, because even if you have no unemployment, if inflation is sky high, the people who are employed, they can't buy shit. Because corporations cannot be trusted to voluntarily protect the environment, they require regulation. This is tough for me because I'm pro environment, but I'm anti regulation, and that's the thing. I have no problem with regulations in regards to worker safety, in regards to environmental safety, like basic pay, protecting their pay, protecting like sick time, vacation time, 401k pension, that sort of stuff. But needless regulation that's just there to make people feel good but not actually do anything, I'm strongly against that. I agree, but not strongly with that statement. From each according to his ability to each according to his need is a fundamentally good idea. Well, yeah, if you're a fucking Soviet, it is. I think that's what I think it was either Stalin or Lenin or Trotsky that might have actually made that quote. So like, yeah, I know that quote, and that quote is from the early Soviet Union, and I think it was Stalin when he was talking about how to pay people. It was like, hey, you're not going to pay them according to his ability and according to his needs. So it's like, well, you're a single, fucking mine worker, so we're not going to pay you shit. Fuck you. It's a sad reflection on our society that something as basic as drinking water is now a bottled, branded consumer product. Yeah, I kind of agree. I mean, it's a basic need, but in some parts of the world, it's more of and we're not talking just Flint, Michigan here, but like Somalia or like places like that. In some parts of the world that are true, you know, zones of unbridled non-government regulation paradise like Somalia, you kind of would rather have that branded consumer bottle of water than drink out of the tap. You just would. Remember hearing stories of my staff sergeant who was a recon Marine when he was in Somalia. He was like, "Dude, you don't drink the water. No one drinks the water there." Land shouldn't be a commodity to be bought and sold. I disagree. I mean, it's kind of tough, man. I think land is a vital resource and should be used for humanity, but at the same time, I mean, if you're going to develop it and benefit mankind with it, I think you should be able to sell it for a fucking profit at least. Or at the very least, lease it out to somebody or something. I mean, I'll disagree, but not strongly. It is regrettable that many personal fortunes are made by people who simply manipulate money and contribute nothing to society. Well, okay, how do they manipulate money? If it's just invest in the stock market, buy low, sell high kind of strategy, I don't really consider that manipulating money. If it's speculating and driving oil prices up and, you know, causing a massive economic recession, yeah, I'm against that. So exactly how do we determine what the manipulation is? It's I mean, it's not like it's not like currency speculation. I'm assuming, but I'm I'm I, I don't know. I I I wish there was a middle one that says neither. I'll agree. Protectionism is sometimes necessary in trade. Okay, well, I agree. I think there's basically there's a left, right, and a center of trade in my eyes. Left is free trade, just fuck it, man, free trade. The right is autarky. You just deal with what you have available, and that's all. And I think the center is more of somewhat protectionist on certain aspects and a bit more. Where if you were to look at, I can't believe I'm quoting a far right French politician, Le Pen here, but I think she got it right where she said if you look at trade like a river, A very, very authoritarian group of people will say you build a dam and just shut off the water. That's autarky. Nothing gets through anymore. The very, very far left will just let the river just flow rapidly and say, fuck it, we're not going to do anything. Or I would say the very libertarian people would do that. Whereas a more of a center thing would be more of a sluice gate to moderate the amount of water that came through. I don't strongly agree because I don't believe every aspect of trade should have protectionism involved. But to some degree, certain aspects, like for example in America, say the automotive industry, the once great automotive industry, maybe, just maybe, some protectionism to at least allow our cars to compete in our country might help. But I don't know. Hmm. The only social responsibility of a company should be to deliver a profit to its shareholders. Well, that's not a social responsibility. That's a financial responsibility, first of all. A company technically doesn't really need a social responsibility to survive. They need a financial one. I mean, you could say a social responsibility of, say, a government would be not to disproportionately tax their citizens, possibly. Or at least progressively tax citizens based on income, so each individual group pays their fair share. But you don't see that happening in countries like America. Or what you do is you see the tax codes, but then you see some really crazy fucking loopholes that only the really rich can have. I don't think it's a social responsibility to deliver a profit. Or I don't think it's the only social responsibility a company has, because a company doesn't need a social responsibility. This is simply just financial here. I mean, like IBM, they make computers. Their responsibility would be to make good computers and turn a profit so they can keep making good computers. What social responsibility does that company have? They just need to make good computers. Fuck it. Hewlett Packard needs to make a good printer and some good printer ink. If you want to argue what do they do with the industrial waste, that's an environmental responsibility, not social. The rich are too highly taxed. I fucking agree with that. The rich are so fucking taxed. I fucking strongly disagree. They got too many fucking loopholes. The rich are too highly taxed. That's immediate, like, oh yeah, they are. Oh, you're a Republican. Those with the ability to pay should have the right to higher standards of medical care. Depending on what the current standards of medical care are, I would agree. If you have no standard of medical care and a rich person can pay for it, well, yeah, that's their right. It's a shitty right, but that's their fucking right. That's like, Mobutu, Seze Seko, yada, 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 Wazabenga from fucking Zaire. That motherfucker was loaded. He could pay for it. His citizens couldn't, but that was his fucking right, ruling as dictator, to be able to pay for his fucking medical care, even though he died of prostate cancer, I think. I agree, but I also agree need to have a basic standard of medical care at least. Government should penalize businesses that mislead the public. I agree, but I also believe we should punish politicians that mislead the public too. And I don't think the government would go for that. A genuine free market requires restrictions on the ability of predator multinationals to create monopolies. Well, you don't need restrictions to prevent multinationals. I mean, you can have that in just a simple country. I mean, look at American history with Standard Oil and what was it? What the fuck did J.P. Morgan own? Did he own U.S. Steel, or was that Rockefeller? Oh man, but yeah, there was. Yeah, I do agree. I believe we need restrictions, but we don't need massive restrictions. We just need restrictions to prevent that, and we do have acts that, if Congress had the balls to use, could actually break up fucking monopolies. The freer the market, the freer the people. I do agree. I noticed that countries that have less free market are less free. Cases in point, well, fuck, Soviet Union, Eastern Bloc, Warsaw Pact countries, Comintern countries, North Korea, China. You look at even industrial powerhouses in World War II, like the Japanese Empire or Nazi Germany. Those weren't free markets, and they were industrially powerful to some degree, but people weren't free. So I do agree, but I also agree that it's not always going to make them free. I believe the free market is more affected by the freedom of the people, if you will. Abortion, when the woman's life is not threatened, should always be illegal. Well, okay. Personal social values, okay. When the woman's life is not threatened, it should always be illegal. Okay, so if the woman's life is not threatened, it's a healthy fetus, abortion should be illegal, is what the question is. What if I put a gun to her head? Is her life threatened then? Because, I mean, if the Republicans want to play that game, I could just say, well, I told my wife if she didn't get an abortion, I would beat her to death. Well, her life was threatened. It's legal. Gotta do it. No, I strongly disagree. Well, when the woman's life is not threatened, should always be illegal. Yeah, I strongly disagree. I mean, I myself, I'm actually, dare I say, I'm actually pro-life, but it's an individual's choice. I mean, it's their choice. Now, I'm married. If my wife were to magically become pregnant and that topic came up, I would like to have input before we follow through, or she follows through with it. But that's just me. I mean, if it's not my child, it's none of my fucking business. This is how it is. It's none of my fucking business. It ain't my kid. All authorities should be questioned. I agree. Not strongly, but I do agree. Some authority I don't think should be questioned. Like if a cop has a gun to my head, I'm not going to question his authority. I'm just going to do what the fuck he says because I don't want to get my brains blown out. An eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. If we were living back in the days of Hammurabi, sure. Strongly God, that it is kind of tough because I know I could point out some parts in my life where that strategy did kind of help. I'll say I disagree. Taxpayers should not be expected to prop up any theaters or museums that cannot survive on a commercial basis. I disagree. I'm not. Why? Oh, hi, Kitty Purry. Somebody's already on my lap. You can't sit on my lap. I'm sorry. I'm not going to strongly disagree because there's a difference between being a patron of the arts, opera houses, things like that, versus saying the government should endow all types of art where you have, people body painting with menstrual blood or, some shit like that. There's a big difference in my eyes. It's a political statement. I don't give a fuck, man. I'm sorry. I don't give a fuck about that. School should not make classroom attendance compulsory. Strongly disagree. I believe classroom attendance should be compulsory. All people have their rights, but it is better for all of us that different sorts of people should keep to their own kind. Oh, can we get a definition on different sorts of people? I mean, like, are we like, is it like Muslims should keep to their own kind, or black people, or like what? I strongly disagree. I hope that's a good answer. Good parents sometimes have to spank their children. I agree. As a parent of two kids, I agree. It is natural for children to keep some secrets from their parents. Yeah, I agree. Possessing marijuana for personal use should not be a criminal offense. Strongly agree. It's. I mean, I'm smoking cigarettes right now. It's not deadly compared to what I can legally smoke, and it's non-addictive. At least from all the studies I've read, it's non-addictive. Whereas what I'm smoking is addictive. It has more medical benefits, more psychological benefits, positive, mind you, than cigarettes. So yeah, should be legal. Prime function of schooling should be to equip the future generation to find jobs. That's a prime function of our schools. They are failing miserably, by the way. I strongly disagree. People with serious inheritable disabilities should not be allowed to reproduce. So we're doing the T4 program from Nazi Germany again, man. We're doing that. Yeah, this person, fellow Germans, this citizen costs you, 2,500 Reich marks a year. That's your money. We should euthanize these people. For those who don't understand, that was actually a poster that Nazi Germany had for the fucking T4 program. They were like, no, 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 we got to kill these people because they're taking your tax dollars, dude. That's your money. We got to kill these cripples. That's literally what they had publicly displayed. I mean, it's Nazi Germany, so I mean, shit, man. They've done worse. The most important thing for children to learn is to accept discipline. I disagree. There are no savage and civilized people. There are only different cultures. Oh, no, 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 no. I strongly disagree. Strongly disagree. If you want to get into cultural relativism, we can have a gay pride march down fucking Fifth Avenue in New York City and get applauded, and then go to downtown fucking Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, and do the same thing and get beheaded. There are savage fucking people in this world. There are savage fucking cultures in this world. It's not that they're different. They're fucking savage, man. Those who are able to work and refuse the opportunity should not expect society's support. Well, it depends on why they're refusing. Are they refusing due to moral grounds, ethical grounds, religious? Again, I'm atheist, so that, for me, a religious reason not to work is basically I'm just like, fuck you, go to work. But for them, it's different. If morally you're opposed to a certain job, like if I were to get a job, I'm unemployed. So this, I have a, I'm being supported by society because I'm unemployed. Thank you very much. But I'm unemployed. If I were to get a job as, say, oh god, let's pick a job. Oh, as an enhanced interrogator, because I was actually trained to do that in the Marines. I was actually trained to interrogate people through enhanced methods. Morally, I'm opposed to that at this point in time in my life. If I refuse that job due to moral grounds, I think society should determine whether they want to support me, not just flat out say, fuck you. Now, if it's you're refusing a job because you think it's beneath you, that's a different story. You're unemployed and, this company's hiring and it's a shit job, but it's a job. I mean, fuck, I would take it. So, I mean, I disagree, but not strongly. When you are troubled, it's better not to think about it, but to keep busy with more cheerful things. Well, it depends on what you're troubled. If you're just troubled with like a little bit of melancholy, a little blue period in your life, that's different than being troubled with, like depression and suicidal thoughts, I think. There's a little bit of a difference, mind you. If you're just like somber and melancholy, say, you don't really like the changing season of summer to autumn. It's a little dreary. It's kind of like England. It rains all the goddamn time. Yeah, do some cheerful shit. But if you're like suicidally depressed, go get some fucking help. I mean, I agree, but I would say it depends on what's troubling you. First generation immigrants can never be fully integrated within their new country. Um, Depends on the immigrant, depends on the culture they're immigrating to, and depends on the culture they're immigrating from. I remember a story that was told to me. I believe it was. I believe it was. I vaguely remember my grandfather Mesh. He died when I was like 5 or 6, but I remember he said something about when his family came to America, and they came from they came from fucking like like Sicily and shit. Okay, so some real OG Italian motherfuckers, and they showed up, and the father was very, very authoritarian with one simple thing. He said, "We're Americans. We speak American now. We don't speak Italian." I don't know. Again, I don't remember my great great grandfather or my great 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 grandfather. I forget which one it was. Never met him. He was long dead before I was born. But I don't know if he fully integrated, but he at least had the attitude about integrating. I disagree, but not strongly disagree. Again, it depends on the person's mentality. It depends on where they're going to, where they're coming from. Like, for example, if I go to Mexico, I doubt I could assimilate if I immigrate to Mexico. If I go to Greece, same thing. I doubt that I could assimilate. If I go to the UK, there's a shared language, a shared culture, communication's easy. I could very successfully integrate there. Plus, there's a lot of common law between the US and the UK. Now, if I were to go to Japan, fuck, man. I don't think my kids would be able to integrate by that time. What's good for the most successful corporations is always ultimately good for all of us. No, I disagree because it depends on the corporation. It depends on what's good for them. If oil prices being sky high is good for them, that's not good for everybody, especially poor people who could barely afford gas as it is. No broadcasting institution, however independent its content, should receive public funding. I disagree because I remember growing up watching public access that was funded. in a very, very public way. I do see how an individual could donate a large amount and potentially control a little of what they're going to say, but I still got to disagree. I think if they want to fund it, they can fund it. It's just I believe there may more than likely probably need to be a little bit of a cap on it. How you see the wider society. I spilled Mountain Dew on my mouse. Damn it. Our civil liberties are being excessively curbed in the name of counterterrorism. No, I think they could be even more curbed. I think we need to curb all civil liberties. Everybody just fuck it. Dawn to dusk curfew. And you're only out at night when people can't see you. No, I strongly agree with that. A significant advantage of a one-party state is that it avoids all the arguments that delay progress in a democratic political system. Yeah. Have you ever read about the Soviet bureaucracy at work? You realize how many fucking layers of like government fat that country has? Like, fuck no, that does not work right. I'd rather there be the lively debate that takes time to potentially get an issue right than a one-party state that just says, all right, fuck it, we're doing this shit. Although the electronic age makes official surveillance easier, only wrongdoers need to be worried. No. No. Everybody needs to be worried because what is a wrongdoer? The people who make the laws determine that. The people who decide what is legal, what is illegal, they're the ones who determine who the wrongdoers are. If we go back 100 years where interracial relationships were illegal in like 15 fucking states, electronic surveillance would have probably led to the deaths of lots of people. I disagree. The death penalty should be an option for the most serious crimes. I'm anti-death penalty. I strongly disagree. With the exception of like treason, maybe, where your treasonous acts actually take innocent lives. I could see an argument made for that. The death penalty for that, I could see the argument. But if it's just like, you murdered somebody, so, well, to teach you a lesson, we're going to murder you, that doesn't make sense. That's like convicting a rapist and then saying, okay, for your punishment, we're going to rape you. First of all, that's totally immoral. And second of all, who the fuck would apply for that job? I mean, seriously. Put an ad on Craigslist. New York State penal system looking for potential rapists to punish other rapists. It's like, it is for mentality crap, which I believe sometimes works, but when death is on the line, not really. In a civilized society, one must always have people above to be obeyed and people below to be commanded. I agree. There are lawmakers. There are those who deliberate on whether these laws are constitutional. Yeah, I agree with that. In terms of like a structured hierarchy where you're born into it, not really, but I agree. Abstract art that doesn't represent anything shouldn't be considered art at all. Well, I disagree. I disagree because we already call it abstract art. It's already fucking art basically. So, yeah, okay. In criminal justice, punishment should be more important than rehabilitation. No, strongly disagree. I would rather have rehabilitated murderers than people who just serve their time and then go back out and kill again. It is a waste of time to try to rehabilitate some criminals. Well, how do you determine what some criminals are? Is it a specific crime? Is it a particular age category, like 75-year-old, homicide? Sorry, a 75-year-old commits homicide. Maybe it's a waste of time to rehabilitate him because he's kind of, hit the life expectancy of this country already. But I mean, kind of agree. Kind of. Mm. The business person and the manufacturer are more important than the writer and the artist. Well, it depends on what the business person is selling, what the manufacturer is making, what the artist is making, what the writer is writing. It depends. I mean, if they're making a pamphlet, if a writer's making a pamphlet telling me the wonders of Sharia law, and the business person is selling me a new pair of shoes, and the manufacturer is making a car, and the artist is drawing a post-colonial feminist masterpiece, I'm going to assume the business person, the manufacturer, are a bit more important in my eyes. But it depends on what they're going to make. It depends on what they're going to do. I disagree. Mothers may have careers, but their first duty is to be homemakers. Well, no. I mean, if they don't want to be homemakers, why do I want to shackle them to be doing that shit? Multinational companies are unethically exploiting the plant genetic resources. The plant genetic resources of developing the plant genetic resources. What the fuck? Exploiting the plant genetic resource. Are we talking about the, like gold and iron and stuff like that? Or are we talking like cornfields for like plant genetic resources? Well, unethically, it depends on your fucking ethics, honestly. It does. It depends on your ethics. A very, very far right, Christian will look at the Bible and say we must adhere to the Bible because it is the ethical and moral way to do it. But that, to me, that's not ethical, because in Leviticus it says if an Israelite woman breaks up a fight between two Israelite men and her hand brushes against the groin of one of the men, that hand is to be cut off. I don't consider that fucking ethical, but it's in the fucking Bible, so we gotta do it. It depends on your ethics, but in general practice, I agree. Making peace with the establishment is an important aspect of maturity. Depends on the establishment. I think it does. It depends on the establishment. If it's a good establishment, yeah. If it's a bad establishment, depends on how bad. And making peace, you do a lot more damage inside of a system than you can outside of it, unless you literally violently overthrow it. Oh, the questions of religion. Astrology accurately explains many things. Yes, astrology explains why I never got laid until I was 19 years old. Totally legit. You cannot be moral without being religious. Bullshit. I know people who aren't moral and they are religious. Charity is better than Social Security as a means of helping the genuinely disadvantaged. This is a tough one because charity doesn't really technically fall under religion. I do agree that charity is good, and Social Security is also good. I'm going to have to agree. I agree, but not strong. I'm on the fence. I wish there was like a middle one that says neither agree or disagree. Some people are naturally unlucky. Oh man, we know people that are just fucking unlucky in life, basically in general. I'm gonna disagree. I think we make our own luck, and some people just kind of fuck themselves over. It is important that my child's school instills religious values. Yes, yes, I send my kids to the greatest Muslim schools there are. Yes, yes, totally. That was easy. Finally, a look at sex. Oh yes, 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 yes. Sex outside of marriage is usually immoral. You, how is it? How is it usually? How is it unusually moral then? If okay, here the question says it's usually immoral to have sex outside of marriage. So when is it unusually moral to do it? I honestly I don't get it. I mean, if you want to look at it from the religion, see this should have been on the fucking religion one. This question should have been religion. If you want to look at it based on the religious aspect of marriage, where you are to be completely faithful and you believe it, well, yeah, it's immoral then. But if you're a free person and you're not married and you're not religious, then I mean, your moral is your moral. If you're married, is it immoral? Depends on your marriage. If you're not married, is it immoral? No. But it, are you actually married in this situation? I don't know. I strongly disagree. I'm going to assume it's not about fidelity. It's about just you being single and having sex. A same-sex couple in a stable, loving relationship should not be excluded from the possibility of child adoption. The statement is very good. I totally agree with it. Until we look at statistics on domestic abuse between gay men and gay women, we see gay men have very low rates of domestic abuse, where gay women have higher rates of domestic abuse. I would rather two dudes raise a kid than two women, just off the statistics. I do agree, but I would potentially just like two gay men to raise a kid instead. Pornography depicting consenting adults, as if it's depicting non-consenting adults ever. At least I've never seen one depicting non-consenting adults, and I've watched some fucked up shit, man. I've watched some fucked up porn in my life. Shit, I got porn right here, man. I got porn tabs right here. Shit. Depicting consenting adults should be legal for the adult population. Fuck yeah. Get some gay interracial midget porn going on here, man. Fuck yeah. They're consenting adults. What goes on in a private bedroom between consenting adults is no business of the state. As long as it's legal, sure. No one can feel naturally homosexual. Okay, by that statement, we need to explore, can anyone feel naturally heterosexual then? There's a million different fucking scales. I prefer the Kinsey scale that's ranked, I think, from 1 to 5 or 0 to 5, something like that, where it's like heterosexual with some bisexual tendencies, and then it's predominantly bisexual with some heterosexual, and it just goes up and up and up until you hit like full blown like I love dick gay. I strongly disagree. I've seen Milo Yiannopoulos. I think he is naturally just gay, like completely just naturally just gay. I mean, look at the hairstyle, man. No, no self-respecting straight man would wear that and say I'm straight. It's only a gay dude would wear that hairstyle. These days, openness about sex has gone too far. Where are we being open about it? Are we like in the middle of a fucking daycare center talking about anal sex, or are we in a like a smoky back room perusing porn among friends? I mean, like both of them sound pretty fucked up, but like where are we here? Where, in this situation, where is the openness being discussed? Discussing it in the middle of a daycare center during business hours with kids around is pretty fucked up. Discussing it with other like-minded adults, no, that's not wrong. That's fine. I disagree. I don't strongly disagree, but I do disagree. Now again, remember I said I was probably in the center left area, and you notice there was nothing about gun control, nothing about gun rights, gun ownership, things like that. Things like voter ID, nothing about that. And questions like that could push me further to the left, further to the right, depending on how I answer, and whether libertarian or authoritarian. So let's see where I stand. Am I the next Hitler? Oh, yeah. Authoritarian right, authoritarian left. This is your social scale. I believe I'm socially liberal, and I would hope that I would be fiscally conservative. Hitler was like right up here with fascism. No shit, really? And then you got your Stalinist communists here. This is where I put a lot of social justice warriors around here. Yeah, that's what I figured. Yeah. I'm somewhat around here. Can I see my position plotted against the 2015 UK election to find out where I am? Yeah, I'm close to the Green Party. Considering the Greens in America were around here, I believe. Sanders was right here. Yeah, that's pretty much why I was big on Sanders. I wasn't big on Jill Stein, though. I think Jill Stein, I don't know, just something about Jill Stein just kind of turned me off. And then, of course, there's him. Show chart in a separate window. And that's just that. Yay! Yay! Personalized political compass certificate showing your position available online. Oh, see? They know me. Google fucking Chrome, man. Google fucking Chrome, baby. So where would the, it doesn't say anything about the Greens in here. BNP lazily described as extreme right. Nah, really? Oh, so I'm close to that Mandela? Yeah, that's Mandela. It's fucking Gandhi all the way over there. But again, this didn't have anything about stuff like gun rights. It didn't have anything about stuff like voter ID, which are, depending on who you speak to in America, some contentious fucking issues. I myself, I'm unemployed. I'm poor. I have an ID. It cost me $10. Whoop de fucking do. It cost me $10 to get it. I know that if I wanted to vote in this election, I needed an ID. I knew that I had to be living at the same address for 6 months. These are the laws of my land, and I choose to follow them. I'm not against voter ID. I'm guessing that would have pushed me a bit more to the right. My views on the Second Amendment, I'm pro Second Amendment. I'm not pro assault rifle, but I am pro AR-15. That would have pushed me a bit more to the right. So this here, I don't believe it's 100% indicative of where I would actually be in real life. I think I would be more closer to the borderline here and possibly more closer to the center point right here if it was a real legit study. Well, I mean, it is kind of legitimate, but it's just it's made in the UK, so there's American issues that aren't in there. If anybody knows of a political compass that is going to have like a Second Amendment or a voter ID question on there, let me know, and then just pop a comment down there, because I'll take that test and get a better view of where I might truly be. I figured I would be, rather center left based on what I saw other people take. But again, no voting ID, no gun control. So, I'm rather right on those issues. Sorry, which is what I believe. And this video's been going for 2 minutes. I guess that means an hour and 2 minutes. So, anyways, my porn is probably loaded right now, so I'm gonna go jerk at some interracial anal because I can. So, like, comment, subscribe, and don't forget, just just watch interracial porn, dude. It's awesome.